This is Beth Standlee with TrainerTainment and my dear friend Elaina Herber, superstar, visionary, go get it. I can do anything, Wonder Woman in my life. It's incredible that I get to work with this human being, and I'm so excited to share her with you. And Elaina, gosh, you've been a client for a long time
A
through
lot.
through through two brands. You've used our sales coaching product, you use our business coaching product, and we've even done grand opening things in one of your previous brands. And part of part of what we want to try to do is to really talk about the fact that people can get education, and I know you're a wonderful learner and you're an avid reader, podcaster, webinar junkie. Um, but the thing is, with just information, if we don't do anything with that information, it's just information. And so engagement is really what got us together. And I'd love you to talk about that a little bit. And then the real magic happens over in transformation. And I think teachers and trainers live in that education and engagement space, but I think a coach lives over there in transformation world. And on our inaugural event, we talked about the fact that outcome, when you're getting coached or when you're getting engaged in that learning and going out to practice and getting the game, you have a positive, you have a negative, or you have a neutral outcome. And if you have a coach to help you
Mhm.
know what to do next, that can create some transformation. So that's really why we're here. And I just want to come to you. You've been coached. You've been coached a long time, not just by me, but you surround yourself with lots of brilliant mentors. And why do you do that? Tell us more.
Sure. Well, I'm going to do a little bit like what they do in politics. Can I go back 30 seconds and just say
Yes, yes, yes,
thank you for having me, state
yeah,
of Utah. No, I'm just
yeah.
kidding. Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to be here.
Oh,
It is a pleasure. It is an honor. And I am just so excited to share with your listeners and your viewers, and of course, some of your clients, exactly the impact that, some of the decisions that we've made through our journey with TrainerTainment, and of course, you as my coach, have had on the various businesses that I've run. So I'm so grateful to be here. So thank you so much. Really
oh,
appreciate
you're welcome. You're
it.
welcome.
Now let's get to the real meat of the question.
There you go.
Why do I do that? Why do I have coaches?
Yeah.
Well, I always played high level sports, and um, the word accountability comes to mind.
Mm,
One of the things, and you and I joke about this all the time, but we're both salespeople, right?
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
one of the things that it is so easy to do as a salesperson is to lie to yourself. You really wake up and you're like, I'm crushing it. It's the
Yeah,
15th of the month. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it to the end of, I'm doing everything I can to
right.
make it to the end of the month. I'm going to get that number. And I think you need that person on your shoulder, the right shoulder, because I'm right-handed, so that's the good
That's
shoulder,
that's the angel side.
the angel shoulder. You need that person who's saying, but where did the rubber hit the road?
Um,
Where is the proof in the pudding? I'm just real concerned that maybe we didn't do the actual work, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
if we can't answer the questions and we get that gut instinct, like maybe I haven't done enough, maybe I'm incapable of going back and looking and saying, did I do the work that is required to get the outcome? Do I know what the work is that's required to get the
The
outcome?
information. Yeah,
Yeah, like a
yeah,
lot of times
yeah.
that's where, as you know, my challenge has been is just to be able to correctly identify what is the outcome I want, and
Yes,
then what is the work that's behind it. And
yeah.
so it's really a coach, regardless of if it's personal or professional, or in your case, you've been both, part psychologist, But I do think it's
More
that.
bartender. I don't have a psychology. I have a psychology minor, but not a degree,
Right,
no
right.
certification.
I do think it's that person who you are willing to like bare your soul and you have this rapport and great relationship with. It takes a long time to get to a point where you trust somebody as much as I trust you. And I don't take, you got to get yourself to a place where you're willing to hear what somebody is saying. And I
Well, that's
think
brilliant.
it
Yeah.
wasn't until I think I met you and I was like, hey, I'm going to start this franchise FEC business. And I had a crazy plan. It was like not an executable plan. And we worked through to ourselves to a place where I could hear that the outcome that I was looking for, the work that I had kind of drawn out and sort of laid out in the business plan, like A plus B was never gonna equal C, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that coaches in general, they're not, sometimes they are rah-rah coaches, sometimes they're motivational coaches, but most of the time, when we surround ourselves with people that are mentoring us and coaching us, it is really about personal and professional accountability. When I oftentimes now you and I talk a lot about the interpersonal side of being a leader and how
Hmm.
to lead others. And we get into a lot of conversations. Conversations now are, you always ask me, like, did you do what you needed to set this person up for success? And you use I wonder if we did that, right? And I always know when the I wonder questions start coming out that it's not judgment. This isn't an I got you
Right.
climate.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is definitely that holding me accountable for. It's real easy to start looking at and doing this. It's really hard to look in here and say, have I done everything I know how to
Hmm.
do? So that's
Hmm.
the short-ish answer to your question.
Oh, that's great. I just love that. And I got to tell you, I think we started this journey. You are
I
absolutely
was 34.
okay.
I was
Okay. And
34.
so it is 10 years. I thought it was
Mhm.
10 years.
Mhm.
And it's just stunning to me,
Yeah.
um your big vision and then a revision, if you will, and
Mhm.
literally managed to get those facilities in a place that you could sell. And you've
Mhm.
moved on from this. I'm going to have, seven or $800,000 children's entertainment centers to having mega millions. I don't
Mhm.
even know how many millions.
Yeah.
You have a restaurant management company today,
Yes.
Ascend
Mhm.
Management Group, and you have the most fabulous high-end VIP steakhouse in Bellevue, um,
In the Pacific Northwest.
in the Pacific Northwest, and it's gorgeous. I have been there, and the view. I got goosebumps just thinking about it because I mean, it's spectacular.
It is
And then you
spectacular.
have how many famous Daves?
Uh,
Six.
yeah, today we have 6. We're moving into the 7th through our Famous Dave's Express model.
Okay.
And so through a little bit of growth and reformatting, we're doing that kind of stuff.
And you
So
have a couple of other brands.
I do. I
And so
stand for.
and so your business, the leverage that you've positioned yourself with to get business coaching for all those businesses is brilliant. Oh, there you go.
There it is.
There's the
Here we
view.
go. I just want
Oh,
to make sure that that everybody really understands what you're talking about here.
oh, it's incredible.
Because
And
then,
I just want to point out that this really is Elaina Herber, not Kamala Harris, because I do know people may
or
be
Maya
confused.
Rudolph.
Exactly, exactly. I think people could be confused.
Oh
I
my
can't
God.
believe that it's just today that I'm like, gee whiz, you look like her.
That's so funny. That's
That's
so funny.
hysterical. Well,
Yeah, well, today Ascend Hospitality Group consists of, prior to COVID, it was, we were about a $50 million business, 700 roughly 700 employees across 3 states. And we had 6 famous Daves. We acquired a company out of bankruptcy called Stanford's Restaurant and Bar. There are 3 in Portland, 1 in Seattle, and then we have a Sun Prime Steak and Sushi. Plus we have our food hall, Lincoln South Food Hall,
Oh,
which is
that's
in the
right. That's right. I
same
got
building.
Lincoln.
So today, post-COVID, we have about half that number of employees. We're about roughly around 350. We did have to close 2 of our famous days, but then we opened an Express. So now we're back to net 6. We have a Send, and Food Hall is, it was really designed to be a lunch place for business, for business users.
That
And
right now are
they're at
not
home.
open.
So that's where we are today. Exactly.
Well, and it's incredible. It makes it, as you're talking, I have a difficult time not feeling like a proud mother, and I know that's kind of ridiculous, but I do have that sense of the growth, and you all are specifically in our business coaching program. We work with the executive team, and you wouldn't think of doing it any other way. Is my sense of it because.
That's correct. Yeah.
And what's that about? Because I mean, when you got Ascend initially, we didn't start. You got ducks in a row and people together. But
Yeah.
as soon as you could, you began doing that. And what's that about?
Sure.
Why do you do that?
Well, I'm going to tell a little story. Back when I started Wiggleworks,
Hmm.
which was my indoor kids playground, as you know, I was very disorganized from an operations management perspective. And I really could not get my arms. I knew I needed, I was a salesperson, so I knew I needed sales metrics and KPIs and all of that kind of stuff in order to make sure that we were hitting our numbers and et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to true organizational traction, I didn't have a common vernacular that I was using with my managers, and I didn't really have a common operations management process. And I didn't really understand what it meant to reorganize the whole business around, the 80-20 rule, right? Like, let's really work on the stuff that's going to push us 80% of the way, the most important things. And the other stuff, it's like so easy to spend your day working on things that you are good at doing, but that are not impactful. And then I had to turn on and lead people to do that. And so I was about to go on vacation, and if you recall, you said to me, I want you to read this book. And I said, I was telling you about my, I just don't feel like we're getting there. And I think it doesn't have to, like, we're crushing our numbers, but the team was disorganized. And so anyway, you said to me, I want you to read this book. It's called Get a Grip.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And so I went, I think, God, I don't know where we were going. We were going to like,
It was a beach. It was some kind of beach. I know. Yeah.
And I came back like 15 days later or 12 days later, and I was like, oh my gosh, like the light bulbs went off. It was crazy. And I just felt so empowered because for the first time, I felt like I found a way to organize and run my business that mirrored my own personal belief system. I'm all about serve a guest or serve someone who is like, a lot of times these organizational management tools, they require you to sacrifice what you believe in the most, right? And it's weird. It's like business and profit before all,
Before
right?
people, right? And that's not who you are. No,
that's not who I am. And so I was just like, I'm not doing that. And so when I discovered through you EOS, or Entrepreneurial Operating System, I fell in love with it, and I took it. TrainerTainment and you helped me implement it into Wiggleworks, their business coaching. And then when I did my stint at a large barbecue company. As you know, I did a tour of duty as the de facto CEO / board advisor. And one of the main things I did there, because it's a very large barbecue company, national franchise. They also did not have a common way to run their business, a common vernacular, a common process to achieve traction. I implemented it there. I brought in a different business coach that happened to be local to them, as you know, just to try and decrease costs and things. But you were always there, always helping me. And then when I started my own business, We had to get the restaurants. Part of our restaurant management company is we're restaurant developers, but we also manage restaurants and we also operate restaurants. We bought some and, we acquired, and then we also built some. So Ascend is one that we built, right? And so we just had to get the doors open and get it going. But the minute I did that, I brought business coaching in when things started to stabilize and we started to see like we were right. I knew that feeling. We were right on the cusp of transformation. I'm like, we are now a $50 million company.
Yeah.
We are getting to 150 million, right?
Yeah.
And it was right around when we were about 35 million that I called you, if you recall.
Gotcha.
And I was like, the hospitality group needs traction. We need EOS, and I need to be the CEO. I cannot implement this thing.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm there for you. So it really is about that feeling of knowing, like that most people's parents, they sit them down and they say, like when your toolkit's empty, you need to like refill it with tools. That's kind of that parenting talk. My toolkit was empty. I mean, it just was. I had never seen the road that I was about to travel. And I think through implementing EOS again, particularly now being kind of a veteran EOS user, now that we have all these great tools and your company has done such a beautiful job adopting it as, a coaching tool to really help businesses achieve not just traction, not just organizational traction, but, that personal and professional accountability that is the foundation of traction, right? And so that's how we kind of got to that. That's why, that's how, that's the why and the how, right? Of how we, of what we use and how we've worked with your company for as many years as we have. We've kind of grown together. And I think it's the term, if you believe it, you can achieve it.
There you go. Well, so what's fabulous, and you made a couple of great points there. EOS, Gino Wickman did such a great job of creating a system around the best practices, because there's Vern Harnish, who wrote Rockefeller Habits and Scaling Up and all that. Vern talks about all those great things, but Gino he put it kind of in this simplified system so that we would have a vernacular. We would have a way of speaking the same language. My CEO group adopted it, and it strengthened our ability to talk about our own individual businesses in a way that we all could understand each other better and things like that. But it's such a curious thing. You as your board seat and kind of interim CEO, said, we're going to implement this when you did your barbecue stint. And you did implementation or worked on implementation, but almost immediately saw, oh no, heck no, I'm going to bring in an implementer. I don't do my own quarterlies. I mean, I have a company where we coach and have coached as many as, I don't know, 50 other businesses. And yet I bring in an implementer to come and do our quarterlies and to come and do our annual planning. And she will stop in to L10s now and then. I mean, I attend all of your L10s. So what's that about? Why do you, Elaina, think that's better than you, who are brilliant and could go do this for another company? You arguably, if you ever have more time and don't have a day job, I would send you to any of our own customers. I know you well enough. I know how you're coached. I know that you would train and coach in our way, in the TrainerTainment way. I could send you to anybody, but you don't do that for your own group. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I think if you're a CEO or a leader, right, and I'm talking to you, whoever's watching this, there's a saying that somebody said to me when I was going through this barbecue stuff, and it was the thing that when I made that decision, because I thought, oh, I can do this, I quickly started to realize that I was the leader there. And until we had a permanent leader, I was not a chief of staff and I was not a coach. and I needed to do that role. I needed to do that,
Leader role.
that leader role. And so between that and then coming and starting my own business, somebody said to me, you know, Lainey, in order to see close up, you have to get further away.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And I was like, ooh, yeah, you're right. Because when you're in it,
Oh,
you
you can't work on it.
can't work on it. And
Yeah.
that is exactly why I thought I don't have the tools to do this. Although I have the tools, they're not the appropriate tools to do this. And so I do feel like it just, I want to work, I have to work on it right now. And I have to work around it, right? But I
Yeah.
can't work all the way down in it. But there are times when I have to, and I know that this is too important of a core process. Actually, um, we've achieved organizational traction. I don't know how we would have done it without it.
Yeah.
So, and frankly, I mean, look, every team has dynamics. Mine was very personal. I worked with my ex-husband, right? And so that became a very, but I don't care if you work with your best friend, or
Oh,
maybe you
yeah. I've
hired
done all
someone
those.
that was,
Mhm.
yeah, like maybe you hired somebody that you're just like, oh gosh, do they really fit?
Right.
But there are always organizational dynamics within a leadership team, and then that trickle down. And as the CEO or the leader of the company, your job is to manhandle that thing to the ground. The best thing we can do is to help people see that they don't fit. And so it's very difficult. The very first thing you got to get your head around is, do I have the right people in the right seats?
Uh-huh.
Right? That is the number one job, and then you can start to get to work. Um, but it's very difficult and awkward and almost impossible to do when it's your team. Like, I can
When
go
you're
to anybody
immersed
else's
in it.
team
Oh,
and be
yeah.
like, hey, these are not the right people.
Yeah.
But that's what a coach, a really good um, implementer or business coach or CEO coach will help with the identification of, do we know what we're getting after, and do we have the right people to do the work? And then further, are they leadership quality, right? And I
Hmm.
think that's like the number one thing. So I feel like we all struggle with those types of things, but it is really hard to see the 30,000-foot view of,
When you're
can
in
we
it.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, achieve it when you're just so far in it.
That's great. That's great. How did you justify the cost?
Um, well, I think it was really a matter of looking at, I don't like the word justify, although I know that that's what we have to do every day as
That
business.
is what we do. That's been one of my big questions during this COVID time is how are you making decisions about
Mhm.
what to spend money on?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm asking myself all the time.
Right.
'Cause I'm spending
Listen,
money.
because we were spending it anyway by not getting organizational traction.
Oh,
That's the real answer,
and it's
right?
more expensive to not do it.
Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
was like, come on, guys. Like this is an investment in us, right? This is an investment in the structure and the foundation of our company and the organizational dynamics of our company, et cetera. We couldn't afford not to do it, right? Like
Yeah.
it was not okay. But I mean, I know like the trying to find the money is always very difficult. So I think it's a matter of, if you're in a company that has, you're meeting your financial goals and you're meeting your interpersonal goals, and then you know what, like, then you're doing what you need to do. But if you're a company that's kind of struggling along, or you've hit a plateau,
Mhm.
or
We call it if you hit
that,
the ceiling and you know you're not
yeah,
going to go any higher if you don't do something different.
exactly. If you hit the ceiling, or if you have taken a massive backslide from, you give the right team. It's kind of like, why could the Chicago Bulls from, the late 80s, early 90s, they had everybody on their team, but they could not win. They had
Yeah.
a horrendous team dynamics situation, and it just went, that is like the perfect example of, they needed the right. There were a lot of changes that got made, and it was all about organizational structure, right?
That's
And they
awesome.
spent some money, but look at that. Look what happened,
Right. Right.
And so look, we got Scott, we got Michael Jordan, we got Shaq, right? We had everybody, and they cost a lot of money, but they were a bunch of babies, and so you had to have their coach come in, and they paid a lot of money for the guy, and he was like, look, here's what's going to happen, right? So I think it's a matter of looking at where are you and being really honest about that assessment of where your business is, and can you afford not to do it?
Yes.
And when you start to prioritize stuff, it's like, do we need that other person in marketing or no? Right? Or, how about, one of the things that I did, and I continue to find the money, right? By doing things like pushing back on the team to say, hey, listen, I appreciate what we're doing. I don't appreciate how we're doing it because we are not efficient. We found $50,000 by just asking ourselves that question. My head of marketing came up and said, oh, dang, we became a print shop. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow. Well, if I wanted a print shop, I'd have bought a damn Fast Signs.
Hey,
right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
what are we doing?
Yeah. I'm a franchisee, right?
Yeah.
But I should have. I mean, it's a good point. So it's like, what is the most important thing we have to do as leaders? We have to provide the structure and the foundation, and make the most important decisions first. And I think that if we're struggling and we're listing and we've got like angst and we just know we have it in us, but we can't get to the number and I think you're in a situation where you already know the answer.
Right. You need a coach. You need somebody
you need a coach.
calling different plays. And I know on my own coaching journey, I think I was in the earlier day, I'm a much better cheerleader than I was a leader and a coach. And I think I would oftentimes want to jump in and get in the game. And I know that that's one of the things because all of our coaches are experienced and we know how to do the job. And so it's real easy to want to jump in and do it. But if you watch the football team play, that coach does not run out there on the field,
No.
and I know from my own coach, and God love her, she was so patient with me because I think I was such a slow learner, but telling people what to do doesn't work, even in your own leadership role.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable because if you're not there to keep telling them, and even in your leadership role, if you're not asking the right questions, having them help figure it out, that's where transformation happens, right? Because instead of you telling them, they then are coming to you and saying, hey, what about this? And I don't know about you, Elaina, but that energizes me as a leader and as a coach when somebody says, what about this play? Can we run this one? Then that's when I know transformation is on the run there.
And the biggest thing is it's accountability for being a part of the solution. Because when we are a part of our own solution, we are
bought in.
We're going to implement it, right? And then we're going to stick to it, right? Yes. So it's all about that personal accountability. I come to you with an issue, you ask me a lot of questions, and then you say, well, I think you already have the answer, right? And then I'm like, sure do. And then we're off, right? And then I know what I need to do because I got myself there. But again, it's like being a parent, right? Like you tell your kids to put their pants on, all the time, they're going to keep not having their pants on. And then it's only when they go outside and their butt's cold, they're going to
I better put some pants on. Yeah, it's their idea. I know. I used to always think that if I just plant the right seed with my middle girl, then she might do it. But if I told her what to do, oh, heck no. Heck no.
Because it's so easy in life to point to everybody else. And it doesn't change from the time when you're, 10, getting that lecture from your parents to the time you become, adult leader where you're like, I've got to have some personal accountability because this is my road. And, I could abandon ship, but I don't want to point the finger. So anyway.
Well, it's great insight because who does hold the CEO accountable? Who holds the owner
Yeah.
accountable? And it's hard. It's easy to kid
Well, that's
yourself.
hard.
It's easy to fool yourself. It's easy to get in that habit of just complaining or blaming or any of those things. And we just
Well,
want to let you.
and like, how do you, the biggest thing I realize is I don't know what I don't know. It's the most
Yes.
humble position in the world.
Yeah.
So like, I want to surround myself with people who have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, went to the concert, because I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
it is too much money. It takes too much time. And all those who have come before us, truly, like you are one of those folks in my life. And so I know that you will help ask the right questions to get me to a point where I recognize what transformation looks like to me
Yeah.
rather than tell me. Um, but I didn't spend a lot of time trying to figure out myself because I don't have the answers. So I think it's that humility piece that everybody has to get into their emotions for a minute and figure out, can I be humble enough to recognize that I might not have all
All the
the
answers. That's
tools.
right. That's great.
Right.
Well, the big secret is I'm learning every single time too. There's never a single coaching moment that I don't
Sure.
spend a couple of minutes at least thinking, okay, what was there in
Mhm.
that? Because I want to be able to take that and apply it to the next person and the next person. It's
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
quite a joy, and you have been a tremendous joy to me to watch your transformation, and it's been a wild ride,
Wild ride.
and I can't say enough about just your trust and your faith. I can hardly wait to see what Ascend turns into.
Oh my
It,
gosh.
it I suspect it will be one of the premier restaurant management groups in this country. And knowing you, I can see you being around the world, or at least to Canada or something. You're already up there really close. So
Well,
I
I'm
could
all
see it
about doing
being.
it the right way. I'm about
Yeah,
doing it the right way.
yeah,
And I think that's where you and I have always bonded, from a soul sister standpoint.
yeah.
Like, we can do something, but if we don't do it the right way, we're not doing it.
It's not
Right.
worth
So,
it. It's just not worth it. Yeah.
yeah.
What real quick? What about if team members? Because I know you face this a little bit. What if team members aren't initially bought in?
Mhm.
What's that process about? How, I mean, it's a leading the witness question, I know, but
It is a leading the way, but then again, it kind of isn't, because it's like, at the end of the day, just like with anything, um, I am the leader for a reason, and without being overly arrogant,
mhm,
have to tell myself that. And I often have to remind my team, I've not led you incorrectly. Like, I have not led you down a wrong road yet.
yeah,
Right. And so there's a little bit of, you just got to trust me. Right.
yeah, got you.
Right. So
And that goes back to having the right people on the right seat, right?
it does. And I didn't have one. And so I slowly but surely worked him out, because it was not the right situation. Right. It was like not going to work. Right. And so I'm like, well, it's kind of like, being in a relationship with someone who doesn't share your foundational morals and
The
values.
values.
Like,
Hmm,
you
hmm,
can't, you know it's wrong, and you eventually have to figure out a way to exit that. Right.
hmm,
So
hmm.
I feel like we all know, right? And if we know that this is the right thing, then we have to have the hard conversations of, don't tell me what you can't do, tell me what we can do. Normally people are very, the people who are, putting up their hackles with this, with going down a road like this, are the people who don't want to be held accountable. And
Oh,
so,
excellent point. Excellent.
right. And so what we
Yeah.
have to say is, we have to actually look at the why. Why
Hmm.
are they a roadblock? Oh, you don't want to be held accountable? Well, you can't be on my team then.
Right. Right.
right?
And
And
people
yeah,
think that accountability is like this consequence or
no,
gotcha kind of
mm,
word, and it's not.
no,
It's a word that creates transformation if you'll
mhm,
let it. If you'll buy in, if you'll
right,
say, I want that.
right.
Like embracing that account. That's why this works for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
And I think people need to have that. I think leaders need to have the courage to determine, like, well, why does somebody, like, when somebody puts puts up the stop sign when you want to implement something like this, you really have to ask yourself, like, why? And you'll find, you'll either resolve a big issue you didn't know you had,
oh,
or you'll find the data that helps you understand that that person's not the right person for the team.
oh,
So especially if you're like, oh my God, especially if you read these books or you have a discussion with Beth and you come away and you're like, this is going to be transformational. Like, what company doesn't want to
right.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Preach, sister.
I I was banging my fist and there went my camera. Anyway, sorry about that. So,
That's
but
awesome.
anyway,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Well, this has been great. You and I could visit. You and I could visit all afternoon. I can't even
yes,
tell
we
you how
could.
much I appreciate you taking the time to pre-record. Here's her commitment. This is a Saturday afternoon, by the way, that she's
Well, I
taking the
want
time
everyone
to.
to know that Beth really left me off the hook because I just came from soccer with my son and I have on sweatpants. So
All
it's
right.
business up top, party on the bottom.
Party on the
Yeah,
bottom. I love it.
okay. But
Oh,
thank you. I'm so
thank
honored,
you.
and
Yeah.
I just can't say enough great things about TrainerTainment. Everything from, again, sales coaching to grand opening to, KPI management to business coaching to CEO coaching. You name it, it's the full meal deal. And
Oh,
I always feel like, I wake up and I've been through so many trials and tribulations. And I know you guys have my back. And it feels
oh,
nice not it's hard. It's hard to lead. It's very lonely.
it is.
And I think everybody needs to know that I just never feel alone. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like I know you're rooting for me, and getting everybody on the same page is extraordinarily important when you're trying to transform a business, regardless of if you're brand new and trying to get to initial goals, or you're trying to do what I'm doing, which is like, okay, I'm a mid-sized business. I'm ready to blow the lid off this sucker, right? So I think that's the biggest thing I want to leave everybody with, and just thank you, Beth. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
gift, and thank you so much for the honor of being able to tell people what a difference you guys have made in my life, but also my
Oh.
business life. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you
Thank
guys.
you. Well, thank you, Elaina, and
That's a pleasure.
go party on and go have the rest
Partying on
go
Saturday.
have the rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you. I'll see you at coaching on Wednesday.
Sounds
Yeah,
good. Aye, aye, Captain. We'll be
there you
there.
go. Thank you. Love you,
All right,
girl.
take care.